The champagne glass in Grandpa Walter's weathered hand caught the candlelight as he stood at our private table in Morton's Steakhouse. My parents, Aunt Martha, and I had gathered to celebrate my college graduation. After 4 years of overnight warehouse shifts and ramen dinners, I'd finally made it. Grandpa Walter smiled at me with those sharp blue eyes that built his construction empire. "Baxter, my boy, are you using the $876,000 education fund I set up for you?" The words hung in the air. "What fund?" I asked. Mom's wine glass shattered on the floor. Dad's steak knife clattered against his plate, while Aunt Martha's fork fell from her frozen fingers. The private dining room at Morton's suddenly felt like a courtroom, and I was the only one who didn't understand what crime had been committed. Grandpa Walter's expression shifted from grandfatherly warmth to something I'd only seen once before, when he caught a contractor skimming from one of his development projects. He reached down to the leather briefcase beside his chair, his movements deliberate and controlled. "Interesting reaction, Catherine," he said to my mother, who was dabbing at the wine spill with shaking hands. "Robert, you look like you've seen a ghost." "Dad, I think there's been some misunderstanding," my father started, but Grandpa Walter raised his hand. "No misunderstanding, son. Just facts." He pulled out a thick manila folder and spread its contents across the white tablecloth, covering the remnants of our appetizers. Bank statements, dozens of them, fanned out like evidence at a trial. "Baxter, when you were 5 years old, I sold the Riverside Development Project. Biggest deal of my career at that point. $12 million profit." I remembered that time vaguely. Grandpa had shown up at our house with the biggest teddy bear I'd ever seen and a promise that my future was secure. "I took $876,000 from that sale," he continued, his finger tracing along the first statement. "Set it up in an education trust fund. Your parents were listed as custodians." He looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw pain in those steely eyes. The account was designed to pay for everything. Private school from kindergarten through high school. Any college you wanted. Graduate school. Study abroad programs. Even a stipend for living expenses so you wouldn't have to work during your studies. My throat constricted. I thought about the state schools I'd attended, the community college credits I'd taken to save money, the nights I'd fallen asleep in the library between my janitor shift and morning classes. "Grandpa, I worked 3 jobs through college. I've got $60,000 in student loans. I lived on ramen and peanut butter for 4 years." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why we're having this conversation." My mother finally found her voice. "Walter, we never received any information about this fund. There must be some mistake with the bank." Grandpa Walter pulled out another document. "Signature cards, Catherine. Both of you signed them. January 15th, 2006. He placed the cards in front of my parents. Their signatures were unmistakable. We thought that was for something else," Dad stammered. "Something else?" Grandpa Walter's voice could have frozen fire. "What else would you have been signing for?" "At First National Bank's Trust Department." Aunt Martha, who'd been silently studying the statements, suddenly gasped. "Walter, look at these withdrawals." She'd arranged them chronologically. They start small. 5,000 in March of 2006, 10,000 in September. But look at the explanations. I leaned over to read. "Educational expenses for a withdrawal when I was 6 years old. Child development program for 15,000 when I was 8. Academic enrichment for 20,000 when I was 10. I never went to private school," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "There were no enrichment programs. I played Little League with borrowed equipment and took free guitar lessons at the community center." Grandpa Walter pulled out more statements. The withdrawals grew larger as the years passed. 30,000 here, 50,000 there, always with education-related explanations. Preparatory academy fees when I attended public high school. College preparation services when I studied for the SATs with library books. University preliminary costs during my senior year when I was working at McDonald's to save for application fees. "These have to be forgeries," my father said. But his voice lacked conviction. "Someone must have stolen our identities. Every withdrawal required 2 signatures, Grandpa Walter said. Yours and Catherine's. The bank has video footage of many of these transactions. Would you like me to call the branch manager? He's holding the security recordings for us. The silence stretched until I couldn't bear it. Mom, Dad, please. Just tell me the truth. Did you know about this money? My mother started crying. Real tears this time, not the decorative ones she produced at funerals and weddings. Baxter, sweetheart, we were going to tell you. When? My voice cracked like I was 13 again. When I was 40? 50? When I'd paid off the loans that shouldn't exist? It's complicated, my father said, reaching for his scotch with unsteady hands. Then uncomplicate it, Grandpa Walter commanded. Because the FBI's Financial Crimes Division is very interested in how $876,000 meant for education became. What exactly, Robert? Aunt Martha had been quiet since examining the bank statements, but I knew that look. As a forensic accountant who'd helped the government prosecute some of the biggest financial fraud cases in Illinois, she was seeing patterns everyone else missed. She pulled out her phone and started cross-referencing dates on the statements with something on her screen. February 2008, she said suddenly. $70,000 withdrawal marked as educational facility improvement. She looked up at my parents. Interesting timing, Catherine. Wasn't that when you bought the house on Maple Street? My mother's tears stopped abruptly. That's none of your business, Martha. Actually, it is, Aunt Martha replied calmly. Because you told everyone, including me, that you inherited that house from Uncle Theodore when he passed. We did inherit it, my father said quickly. The fund withdrawal was for something else. Aunt Martha's laugh was sharp. Robert, I handled Uncle Theodore's estate. He died with $14 in his checking account and $40,000 in medical debt. The nursing home took everything else. There was no house to inherit. I felt the room spinning slightly. Our house, the one place that had always felt like security in my unstable college years, was bought with my education money. Every memory there suddenly felt tainted. The bedroom I'd studied in, working toward a future that had already been stolen. The kitchen table where I'd filled out scholarship applications while my parents encouraged me to work hard for what you want. September 2010, Aunt Martha continued relentlessly. $40,000. Academic infrastructure development. That was your kitchen renovation, wasn't it? I remember the granite countertops, the Viking range. You said business was good that year. Business was never good. Dad's real estate agency had limped along for 20 years, barely breaking even most months. Mom's part-time work at the dental office couldn't have paid for the lifestyle they led. I'd always wondered but never asked, assuming they were better at saving than they appeared. June 2012, Aunt Martha wouldn't stop. $25,000. Summer enrichment program. Baxter. Where were you that summer? Working at the warehouse, I said numbly. Saving for textbooks. And where were your parents? The memory hit me like cold water. Europe. Their 20th anniversary trip. 3 weeks in Italy and France. March 2014. $35,000. Educational equipment. Aunt Martha looked at my father. The BMW? That was a business investment, he protested weakly. April 2015. $18,000. Academic conference. The cruise to Alaska. October 2016. $42,000. Institutional development. The boat you bought and sold within 8 months. Each revelation felt like another wound. The boat. I remembered Dad taking me out on it exactly twice, both times talking about how a man has to earn his place in the world while he captained a vessel bought with my future. Wait, I said, something clicking in my memory. Dad, the restaurant. 2017. You invested in that seafood place that closed after 6 months. You said you borrowed from your retirement. Aunt Martha was already scrolling. January 2017. $90,000. Vocational training investment. You invested my college fund in a restaurant? My voice was rising. I was sleeping in my car between shifts that year because I couldn't afford campus housing. And you were playing restaurateur with my money? We were trying to grow the fund, my mother said desperately. We thought we could double it, Replace what we borrowed. Borrowed? Grandpa Walter's voice was deadly quiet. You borrowed $876,000? What collateral did you offer? What interest rate did you agree to? Where are the loan documents? Silence. That's what I thought, he continued. You didn't borrow anything. You stole it. From your own son. He's our child. My father shot back, finally showing some spine. We raised him, fed him, clothed him, kept a roof over his head. With his own money, I shouted, standing up so fast my chair tipped backward. You kept a roof over my head with money meant for my education, then watched me work myself to exhaustion to pay for the education you already stole. We gave you character, my mother said, and I couldn't believe she actually seemed to believe it. Look how strong you are, how independent. Would you have that work ethic if everything had been handed to you? Handed to me? I was shaking now. It was my money, set aside for my future. You didn't build my character. You stole my choices. I could have gone to MIT, Yale, Stanford. I had the grades, but I knew we couldn't afford it. Except we could. I could. I thought about every opportunity I'd passed up. The study abroad program in Japan. The internship in New York I couldn't take because it was unpaid. The research position that would have changed my career trajectory but required full-time commitment. Every door I'd closed because I thought we were poor. The jewelry, I said suddenly, remembering something. Mom, your anniversary diamonds. The tennis bracelet. The emerald necklace you wore to Cousin Jennifer's wedding. Aunt Martha was already checking. Multiple withdrawals. 3,000 here, 5,000 there. All marked as educational supplies or academic materials. You wore my textbooks around your neck, I said, feeling sick. You put my tuition on your fingers. Baxter, please, my father said. We're still your parents. We love you. Do you? I asked. Because people who love someone don't steal their future and then lie about it for 18 years. They don't watch that person struggle and sacrifice while they spend his money on luxury. What kind of parents do that? The kind who thought they were smarter than everyone else, Grandpa Walter said. He'd been quiet during my outburst, but now he stood too. The kind who saw an opportunity and took it, assuming they'd never be caught. The kind who valued their own comfort over their child's future. He turned to me. Baxter, there's more. The withdrawals accelerated in the last 2 years. They've taken everything. The account is empty. $876,000. Gone. Not lost, not invested poorly, not mismanaged. Stolen. By the two people I trusted most in the world. The private dining room door opened, and everyone turned. Sarah stood there, my girlfriend of 2 years, looking flushed and worried. Her nursing scrubs suggested she'd come straight from her shift at Northwestern Memorial. In any other circumstance, I would have been touched that she'd rushed here after getting my mother's call. But something about her expression, the way she wouldn't meet my eyes, made my stomach clench with fresh dread. Sarah? I said. What are you doing here? Your mom called, she said quietly, still avoiding eye contact. Said it was an emergency. It is, I said. My parents stole my entire college fund. $876,000. I know, she whispered. The room went silent again. That particular quality of silence that happens when everyone realizes something significant just shifted. What do you mean, you know? I asked, though part of me already understood. The part that had noticed how Sarah always had money despite being a nursing student. How she never let me pay for dates even though I insisted. How she always redirected conversations when I talked about my financial struggles. Sarah sank into the empty chair beside me, her hands folded in her lap like a child in the principal's office. Baxter, I need to tell you something. Sarah, don't, my mother warned. Shut up, Catherine, Grandpa Walter snapped. Let the girl speak. Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. I've been getting payments. Monthly. $2,000. She opened her Venmo history and handed me the phone. Payment after payment, all from something called Educational Support Services, LLC. What is Educational Support Services? I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. It's a shell company, Sarah said. tears starting to flow. Your parents created it. They've been paying me. Paying you for what? My voice sounded disconnected from my body. To date you. The words hung in the air like poison gas. I stared at her, at this woman I'd planned to propose to next month. I'd already bought the ring, a modest quarter carat that had taken me 6 months to save for. They approached me 2 years ago, Sarah continued, her words coming faster now. At the coffee shop where you and I first met. Only it wasn't where we first met, was it? They'd sent me there. They knew you studied there every Tuesday and Thursday. You're lying, I said. But even as I said it, memories started clicking into place. How Sarah had happened to need the exact textbook I was studying. How she'd been so interested in my career plans, always steering me toward practical choices instead of ambitious ones. They said you were brilliant but unfocused, Sarah went on. That you needed someone to keep you grounded, to make sure you didn't ask too many questions about family finances. They told me your grandfather was wealthy but eccentric, that he'd cut you off if you seemed too interested in money. And you believed that? Aunt Martha asked incredulously. I needed to, Sarah said. My mom has cancer. Real cancer, not a lie. The treatments aren't covered by insurance. $2,000 a month meant she could get the experimental therapy. It meant she might live. I wanted to hate her completely, but that detail made it harder. So every moment between us was fake? Every kiss? Every I love you? No. Sarah grabbed my hands, and I let her, too shocked to pull away. At first, yes, it was a job. But Baxter, I fell in love with you. Really, your kindness, your work ethic, the way you never complained even when life was so unfair to you. I tried to give the money back after 6 months. But your parents said if I stopped, they'd tell you everything, and you'd hate me. I hate you now, I said, pulling my hands away. I know, she sobbed, but I need you to know the whole truth. They didn't just want me to date you. They wanted me to control you. To discourage you from applying to top-tier graduate programs. To convince you that student loans were normal, even character building. Remember when you had that interview with Goldman Sachs? I remembered. The opportunity of a lifetime. But the morning of the interview, Sarah had a breakdown about our relationship, saying she couldn't handle me moving to New York. They paid me $5,000 extra to sabotage it, she admitted, and the Stanford research position, and the Fulbright scholarship application. Every time an opportunity came up that might lead to questions about why you couldn't afford it, or why your family wasn't helping, I was supposed to redirect you. You destroyed my career prospects, I said slowly. On purpose. For money. Your parents destroyed them, she said. I was just their tool. But yes, I did it. I made you think you weren't good enough for those opportunities. I made you doubt yourself. Well, 10. And I'm so sorry. Sorry? I laughed, but it came out bitter and broken. You're sorry? You manipulated me for 2 years, made me fall in love with you, sabotaged my future, and you're sorry? There's more, she said quietly. Of course there is, Grandpa Walter said. There always is with these kinds of people. Sarah pulled up her email and showed me a thread with my mother. They wanted me to get pregnant. They offered me $50,000 to accidentally get pregnant. They said it would lock you down, keep you from asking questions, make you focus on just surviving rather than investigating family finances. But you didn't, I said, remembering all the times she'd been so careful about birth control. No, she said, I couldn't do that to you, or to a baby. That was my line. How noble, Aunt Martha said dryly. You drew the line at reproductive coercion. Want a medal? I want forgiveness, Sarah said, looking at me. I know I don't deserve it, but I loved you. I still love you. That part was real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? I asked. Every memory I have of us is tainted now. Every moment is a lie. Not every moment, she insisted. Remember when your grandmother died? I held you while you cried. That was real. Remember when you got that promotion at the warehouse? I was genuinely proud. Remember our trip to Michigan? Your parents didn't pay for that. I did, because I wanted to see you happy. Stop, I said. Just stop. You took money to lie to me, to manipulate me, to sabotage my future. Whether you felt bad about it, Whether you occasionally had genuine feelings, it doesn't matter. You participated in stealing my life from me. My father, who had been silent during Sarah's confession, suddenly spoke up. It wasn't like that. We were protecting you. Protecting me? I turned on him. From what? Success? Opportunity? My own money? From becoming soft, he said. From becoming one of those trust fund kids who never amount to anything. Look at you now. You're strong. Independent. You earned everything you have. I earned everything twice, I shouted. Once with the fund Grandpa set aside, and again with my own sweat and blood, because you stole the first earning. You didn't make me strong. You made me exhausted. You made me miss opportunities that will never come again. You made me doubt my worth when I was worth $876,000 the whole time. The money would have ruined you, my mother said, still clinging to her justification. No, Grandpa Walter said. You ruined him. Or tried to. The only thing that saved him was his own character, which he built despite you, not because of you. Grandpa Walter pulled out his phone, its screen reflecting off his reading glasses. Before we go any further, I need to check something. I set up educational funds for both my grandsons. He scrolled through his contacts. Let me call Connor. He should be in his residency at Harvard Medical School by now. My younger brother Connor. The golden child who'd breezed through undergraduate at Northwestern and allegedly gotten into Harvard Medical School. While I'd struggled at state schools, Connor had supposedly earned a full ride to medical school through his exceptional academic performance. Dad, that's not necessary, my father said quickly, reaching for Grandpa's phone. Grandpa Walter pulled it away. Oh, but it is. He found the number and put it on speaker. Let's congratulate my brilliant grandson on his medical studies. The phone rang once, twice. Then a woman's professional voice answered. Harvard Medical School. Registrar's office. Yes, hello, Grandpa Walter said, his eyes locked on my parents. This is Walter Harrison. I'm calling to verify enrollment for my grandson, Connor Harrison. He should be in his second year of residency. Let me check our system, Mr. Harrison. We heard typing. I'm sorry, sir, but we have no record of a Connor Harrison in our medical school, residency program, or any of our affiliated programs. Could you check again? Perhaps under Connor R. Harrison. More typing. No, sir. No one by that name in our system. We haven't had a student named Connor Harrison in the past decade. I see. Thank you. Grandpa Walter ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Connor? It's Grandpa. Video call me right now. 30 seconds later, Connor's face appeared on the screen. But instead of the Boston Hospital background we expected, he was clearly in a casino. Slot machines chimed behind him, and cigarette smoke created a haze around his head. Grandpa, Connor said, clearly drunk. What's up, old man? Where are you, Connor? Vegas, baby. Just hit a hot streak at the poker table. I thought you were at Harvard Medical School. Connor laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from someone too intoxicated to maintain a lie. Medical school? Nah. That was just the story. Mom and Dad said you'd cut us off if you knew I dropped out of undergrad junior year. The room exploded. My mother lunged for the phone while my father started shouting about privacy and respect. But Grandpa Walter held the phone high, letting Connor's drunk rambling continue. Connor, I said loudly enough for him to hear. How long have you been in Vegas? Baxter? That you, bro? Man, you wouldn't believe this place. I've been living here for 3 years. 3 years? I felt my legs go weak. How? How are you affording this? Mom and Dad send me 30 grand every semester for medical school, Connor laughed. Plus the living stipend, the book money, the lab fees. It's about $60,000 a year. Perfect for a professional poker player. You're a professional poker player? Aunt Martha asked. Well, trying to be, Connor admitted. I'm down about $200,000 right now, but I'm due for a big win. The math says so. The math, Grandpa Walter said coldly, says you're a fool and a fraud. Connor, who told you to lie about medical school? Even drunk, Connor recognized the danger in Grandpa's voice. It was their idea, he said quickly. Mom and Dad. They said you'd be proud of having a doctor in the family. They even took me to Boston, helped me take fake photos at Harvard. We bought a white coat and everything. They said it was just temporary, that I'd figure out my path soon. And the money? Grandpa pressed. Where does the money come from? I don't know, some education account or something. Dad handles all that. He just tells me to send fake transcripts every semester. He even has a friend who makes them look official. Connor, I said, my voice hollow. That money, it was from my education fund, the one Grandpa set up for me. What? No way. Dad said it was from his investments. Dad lied, I said. To both of us. You've been gambling with money stolen from my college fund. Connor's face went pale even through the video distortion. Baxter, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But you knew you were lying, Grandpa Walter said. You knew you were committing fraud. Sending fake transcripts is a federal crime, Connor. Dad said it was harmless, Connor protested. He said everyone embellishes a little. Embellishes? I laughed bitterly. You invented an entire medical career and lost $200,000 of my money while doing it. There's something else, Connor said, now looking genuinely scared. Dad's been having me sign papers, loan documents. He said they were for financial aid, but I never saw any money from them. Aunt Martha grabbed the phone. Connor, what kind of loan documents? I don't know. Student loans, I think? Private ones. He said my credit was better than his. Oh my God, I said, pulling out my phone to check my credit report. I'd never done it before, never thought I needed to. The loading screen seemed to take forever. When it finally loaded, I nearly dropped the phone. 7 credit cards I'd never opened, all maxed out. 3 personal loans totaling $90,000. A car loan for a BMW I'd never driven. My credit score was 412. They destroyed my credit, I said numbly. They took loans in my name. Mine too, Connor said, finally sounding sober. I just checked last week. I thought it was identity theft, but the signatures look like mine. Dad must have forged them. Or had you signed them without reading, Aunt Martha said. Robert, Catherine, you've committed identity theft, wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy. These are federal crimes. You can't prove anything, my father said, but his bravado was crumbling. Actually, Connor said from the phone, I've been recording our conversations for the past year. Dad kept asking me to sign more papers, and something felt wrong. I've got him on tape explaining how to lie to Grandpa, how to forge medical documents, even discussing taking out a loan against Grandpa's eventual inheritance. You recorded us? My mother shrieked. You taught me to lie, cheat, and steal. Connor shot back. Did you think I'd only use those lessons when it benefited you? Grandpa Walter took his phone back. Connor, stay where you are. Don't sign anything else. Don't cash any more checks. My lawyers will contact you within the hour. Grandpa, I'm sorry, Connor said, and for the first time since we were kids, he sounded like my little brother again. I'm so sorry. You're not the one who needs to apologize most, Grandpa said, looking at my parents. But we'll deal with you later. After he hung up, the silence was deafening. My parents had stolen from me, lied to me, manipulated my girlfriend, corrupted my brother, destroyed my credit, and committed federal crimes. All while telling me they loved me. Aunt Martha had been furiously typing on her laptop for the past few minutes, her forensic accounting instincts in full gear. Her face grew increasingly grim as she scrolled through whatever she'd found. Walter, she said slowly, have you been feeling all right lately? Any unusual symptoms? What kind of question is that? My father snapped. Of course he's fine. I wasn't asking you, Robert, Aunt Martha said coldly. Walter, please. Any memory issues, confusion, dizziness? Grandpa Walter frowned. Now that you mention it, yes. The past 6 months, I've had episodes. Confusion at family dinners. Can't remember conversations. My doctor ran tests but found nothing wrong. Said it might be stress. When do these episodes happen? Aunt Martha pressed. Usually Sunday dinners at Catherine and Robert's house. Sometimes during our Thursday coffee meetings. I felt ice in my veins. Grandpa, you've been having memory problems only when you're with my parents? Sarah suddenly gasped. Oh my God. The pills. Everyone turned to her. Thanksgiving, Sarah said, her face white. I was looking for aspirin in your parents' bathroom. I found prescription bottles. Donepezil and memantine. Alzheimer's medications. But neither of your parents has Alzheimer's. Those are for my mother said quickly. She's showing early signs. Your mother died 5 years ago, Catherine, Aunt Martha said flatly. I meant Robert's mother. Who lives in Arizona and hasn't visited in 3 years? Grandpa Walter's voice was dangerously quiet. Try again. Sarah pulled out her phone. There's more. I took photos because something felt wrong. She showed us the images. Look at the prescription dates. They're recent. And the dosage instructions have been modified. Someone put whiteout over the original dosage and wrote new numbers. Those medications, Aunt Martha said, pulling up a medical website, can cause confusion and memory problems in healthy individuals if given inappropriately, especially if the dosage is wrong. She looked at my parents with disgust. You've been drugging your own father. That's insane, my father protested, but sweat was beading on his forehead. Is it? Sarah said quietly. Catherine, I heard you on the phone last Christmas. You were talking to someone about increasing the dosage and making sure he seems confused at the family meeting. I thought you were talking about a patient at the dental office, but you weren't. Were you? My mother's face had gone from pale to gray. You don't understand. He was going to find out about the money. We needed time. Time for what? I demanded. To have him declared incompetent, my father admitted, finally breaking. We have power of attorney documents prepared. Our lawyer friend, Marcus, was ready to file. We just needed witnesses to his confusion and memory problems. Tonight, Aunt Martha said, understanding dawning on her face. This dinner. You invited specific people, didn't you? Who else was supposed to come? Dr. Brennan and Marcus, my mother whispered. They were running late. A doctor and a lawyer, Grandpa Walter said. To witness my confusion about the education fund. To testify that I was making false claims about money that never existed. We were going to say you were developing dementia, my father admitted. That you were imagining things, creating false memories about funds and accounts. Marcus had already drafted a letter expressing family concern about your mental state. I felt sick. You were going to steal everything. Not just my education fund, but Grandpa's entire fortune. It would have come to us eventually anyway, my mother said defensively. We're his only son and daughter-in-law. It's our inheritance. Inheritance is what you receive when someone dies naturally, Aunt Martha said. What you were planning is elder abuse, fraud, and attempted murder. Murder? My father scoffed. We weren't going to kill him. Overdosing someone on Alzheimer's medication can cause organ failure, Sarah said quietly. I'm a nursing student. I know what those drugs can do at the wrong dosage. You've been slowly poisoning him. Grandpa Walter stood up slowly, his hands steady despite everything he'd just learned. Robert, Catherine, you drugged me, your own father. You watched me struggle with confusion, saw my fear that I was losing my mind, and you caused it. Deliberately. We didn't mean for it to go that far, my mother said weakly. How far did you mean for it to go? Grandpa asked. Until I signed over my company? My properties? My investment accounts? Until I was drooling in a nursing home while you spent everything I'd built? He pulled out his phone again. I need to make a call. He dialed a number from memory. Dr. Morrison? It's Walter Harrison. I need you to run a specific blood test. Yes, tonight. I'll pay whatever it costs. Who's Dr. Morrison? My father asked nervously. My private physician. The one you don't know about. The one who's been documenting my symptoms for months. He looked at them with contempt. Did you really think I'd built a construction empire from nothing by being stupid? I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know it was my own family poisoning me. The reality of what my parents had done kept expanding. They hadn't just stolen my education fund. They'd corrupted my brother, hired my girlfriend to manipulate me, destroyed my credit, and tried to slowly kill my grandfather for his money. There's one more thing, Sarah said, looking miserable. The draft email. What draft email? I asked, though I wasn't sure I could handle another revelation. Check your father's phone. He showed it to me last week, wanted my opinion on the wording. My father clutched his phone, but Grandpa Walter held out his hand. Give it to me, Robert. Now. Reluctantly, my father handed it over. Grandpa navigated to the drafts folder and found it immediately. He read it aloud. Dear family, it is with heavy hearts that we write to express our concerns about Father's declining mental health. Over the past year, we've noticed increasing confusion, false memories, and paranoid delusions about money and conspiracies. Today at dinner, he made wild accusations about non-existent education funds and became violent when we tried to calm him. We believe he is a danger to himself and others. We are seeking immediate medical intervention and legal guardianship to protect him and his assets. We ask for your support during this difficult time. Robert and Catherine. You are going to send this tonight, Grandpa Walter said. After the dinner, after your witnesses saw my confusion. The became violent part, I said, understanding. You were going to provoke him, make him angry enough to shout or throw something, then claim he was violent. It would have worked, my father said bitterly. If Sarah hadn't shown up, if Connor hadn't gotten drunk, if you hadn't started asking questions, if you hadn't stolen $876,000 in the first place, I said. This all started with my education fund. Everything else, every crime, every betrayal, grew from that original theft. Grandpa Walter set down his phone and looked at my parents with an expression I'd never seen before. It wasn't anger or disappointment, it was satisfaction. The look of a chess master who'd been playing 10 moves ahead while his opponents thought they were winning. Robert, Catherine, I need to tell you something, he said, his voice calm and steady. I've known about the missing money for 2 years. The room went silent. Even the ambient restaurant noise seemed to fade. What? My mother whispered. 2 years ago, I noticed a discrepancy in the fund during a routine audit of my charitable giving. $876,000, systematically drained over 18 years. At first, I thought it was bank error. Then I thought it was fraud by an employee. It took me 3 months to accept the truth that my own son and daughter-in-law were thieves. Then why, my father stammered, why didn't you say anything? Because I needed to know how deep the corruption went. Was it just the money? Or was there more? Grandpa pulled out a different phone, one I'd never seen before. This is my recording device. Every family gathering for the past 2 years has been recorded. Every dinner, every holiday, every casual coffee meeting. He pressed play on a recording dated last Christmas. My mother's voice filled the room. We need to increase the dosage. He's still too sharp. If he figures out about the education fund before we have him declared incompetent, we're finished. Another recording, from Easter. My father saying, Connor's getting suspicious. We might need to cut him off. Say Grandpa found out about the fake medical school. We can't afford both boys figuring this out. Another, from just last month. Sarah's getting cold feet about the pregnancy plan. We might need to find Baxter a different girlfriend, someone more controllable. You recorded us? My mother shrieked. In our own home? My investigator recorded you, Grandpa corrected. With a warrant. Did you know that when elderly abuse is suspected, Colorado law allows for surveillance with just a judge's approval? Judge Martinez was very interested in why my prescribed medications kept disappearing and reappearing in your bathroom cabinet. What investigator? My father demanded. The one sitting at the bar, Robert. Grandpa nodded toward the door. She's been your neighbor for 18 months, Mrs. Patterson, the nice widow who brings you cookies and chats with Catherine about gardening. She's actually former FBI, specializes in financial crimes and elder abuse. We all turned to look at the grandmotherly woman at the bar who waved cheerfully. She's gathered quite a file, Grandpa continued. Financial records, recordings, photographs. Like this one, Catherine, of you grinding up Don Pezzle into my coffee 3 weeks ago. Or this one, Robert, of you forging my signature on withdrawal slips at the bank. The bank's cameras caught you practicing in the parking lot first. Not very smart. This is entrapment, my father said desperately. None of this will hold up in court. Actually, it will. A new voice came from the doorway. A woman in a sharp blue suit entered, followed by 3 other people in FBI windbreakers. I'm Special Agent Jennifer Morrison, Financial Crimes Division. Mr. Harrison contacted us 8 months ago when he discovered the drugging. 8 months? I said, stunned. Grandpa, you've known about everything for 8 months? I suspected everything, he corrected. But I needed proof, and I needed to know who else was involved. Whether you were part of it, Baxter. Whether Connor was a victim or a co-conspirator. Whether Sarah was being manipulated or was manipulating. You tested me, I said, remembering. Last year, you offered me that investment opportunity. $20,000 cash. No questions asked. I turned it down. You did. Even though you were living on ramen, even though you needed it desperately, you said you hadn't earned it. That's when I knew you weren't part of their scheme. And Connor? I asked. Connor's an idiot and a gambling addict. But he's not evil, Grandpa said. Agent Morrison, did you get what you needed? She smiled. Every word, Mr. Harrison. The wire Connor's been wearing for the past year has given us enough evidence to prosecute for multiple federal crimes. Connor's been wearing a wire? My mother gasped. For a year? Since I caught him in Vegas and offered him a choice, Grandpa said. Prison for fraud, or help me expose his parents. He chose wisely. Our own son betrayed us? My father said. You betrayed him first. Connor's voice came from the phone, which was still connected. You turned me into a liar and a fraud. You made me believe stealing was normal. But Grandpa showed me another way. I've been in real therapy, not the gambling addiction meetings you think I'm attending. I'm getting clean, getting honest. And part of that honesty means testifying against you. Agent Morrison stepped forward. Robert Harrison, Catherine Harrison. You're under arrest for wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit murder. Murder? My mother protested as an agent cuffed her. We never tried to kill anyone. Administering prescription medication to someone without their knowledge, in dosages intended to cause harm, that's attempted murder in this state, Agent Morrison said. The recorded conversations where you discuss permanent solutions. If the incompetency plan fails, those upgrade the charges. As my parents were being cuffed, my father looked at me with genuine confusion. How can you do this to us? We're your parents. You stopped being my parents the day you stole my future, I said. Parents protect their children. They sacrifice for them. They build them up. You tore me down for money. You watched me struggle and suffer while you spent money meant for my education. That's not love. That's not family. That's just greed. Baxter's right, Grandpa said. Family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty, honesty, and love. You showed none of those things. You're not my family anymore. You're just criminals who happen to share my DNA. What about the money? My mother asked desperately. The $876,000? Recovered, Agent Morrison said. Mr. Harrison marked certain bills years ago. We've traced them through your purchases. The court will order full restitution, plus damages. The house you bought with stolen funds will be sold. Your assets will be frozen. You'll pay back every penny, with interest. Sarah, who had been silent during the arrests, stood up. I want to help. I'll testify. I'll provide all the evidence I have. The text messages, the emails, the recordings I made when I got suspicious. You recorded us too? My mother said. The last 6 months, Sarah admitted. When you started talking about drugging Mr. Harrison, I couldn't stand by. I've been documenting everything, hoping to find a way to stop you without destroying Baxter in the process. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I know it doesn't make up for what I did, but I couldn't let them hurt your grandfather. Or you. Any more than they already had. As my parents were let out, my father turned back one more time. This is all your fault, Baxter. If you'd just been less ambitious, less questioning, none of this would have happened. No, Dad, I said. If you'd just been honest, none of this would have happened. 6 months later, I stood in federal court as the judge read the verdict. The courtroom was packed with reporters, financial crime investigators, and other families who'd experienced similar betrayals. My parents, looking smaller and older in their orange jumpsuits, stood as the judge spoke. Robert Harrison and Catherine Harrison, you have been found guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and attempted murder. The systematic nature of your crimes, spanning 18 years, targeting your own son and father, represents a breathtaking breach of familial trust. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Hawkins, looked at my parents over her glasses. In my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty performed by parents against their own child. You stole not just money, but opportunities, dreams, and years of his life. You watched him struggle while you lived comfortably on funds meant for his education. When that wasn't enough, you attempted to poison your own father for his fortune. Your Honor, my father's lawyer interjected, my clients maintain that they intended to repay. Intentions mean nothing without actions. Judge Hawkins cut him off. They had 18 years to repay. Instead, they escalated their crimes, involving others in their web of deception, including manipulating a young woman into a romantic relationship with their son. The psychological damage alone is immeasurable. She turned back to my parents. Robert Harrison, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison. Catherine Harrison, 12 years. You will jointly pay restitution of $1.3 million, representing the stolen funds, plus interest and damages. All assets purchased with stolen funds will be liquidated. You are permanently barred from serving as financial custodians for anyone. My mother sobbed while my father stared straight ahead, still somehow indignant. After the sentencing, I walked out into the bright Denver sunshine. Grandpa Walter was waiting, looking healthier than he had in years now that the poisoning had stopped. Beside him stood Connor, 6 months sober and enrolled in community college for real this time, studying accounting. How do you feel? Grandpa asked. Free, I said, and meant it. For the first time in my life, truly free. The recovery of the stolen funds, plus the interest and damages, had given me more than just money. It had given me choices. I'd paid off my student loans the first day the funds were released. The relief of seeing those balances hit zero was indescribable. But I didn't keep all the money. That's not who I learned I wanted to be through all of this. 3 months after the trial, we held the first fundraiser for the Second Chance Education Foundation. The ballroom at the Four Seasons was packed with donors, all drawn to our unique mission, helping students whose families had committed financial abuse against them. You'd be surprised how common it is, I told the assembled crowd from the podium. Parents taking out loans in their children's names, stealing college funds, sabotaging financial aid. We've received over 300 applications in just 2 months. Sarah was there? Not as my girlfriend. We'd ended that for good, but as a volunteer. She'd testified honestly at the trial, helping secure the conviction. Her mother's cancer was in remission, and Sarah had found legitimate work as a pediatric nurse. We'd never be together again. The betrayal was too deep, but I'd forgiven her enough to let her help others avoid her mistakes. The first recipient of our full scholarship, I announced, is Maria Rodriguez, whose parents stole her college savings to fund their gambling addiction. Maria worked 3 jobs while maintaining a perfect GPA, never knowing that $40,000 had been set aside for her education by her late grandmother. Maria, would you come up? A young woman, barely 20, walked to the stage. Her story was heartbreakingly familiar. The embarrassment, the confusion, the self-doubt that comes from being betrayed by those who should protect you most. Mr. Harrison, she said into the microphone, her voice shaking. You've given me more than money. You've given me validation that what happened to me was wrong, that I deserved better, that I deserve a future. That's what the foundation was really about, not just replacing stolen funds, but acknowledging the unique pain of familial financial betrayal. Aunt Martha had become our chief financial officer, using her forensic accounting skills to verify each applicant's story and ensure the funds went to genuine victims. She'd also helped me understand my own finances for the first time, teaching me about investments, savings, and building wealth responsibly. Never put all your trust in one person, she told me during one of our sessions. Even family. Especially family. Sometimes. Connor had become my unexpected ally in all of this. His testimony had been crucial in the trial, and his recovery had been genuine. He worked part-time at the foundation while attending college, using his own story to help other young people who'd been corrupted by their parents' greed. "I was lucky," he told our support group one evening. "My brother forgave me. My grandfather gave me a second chance. Not everyone gets that." He was right. Not everyone did. But that's why the foundation existed, to be the second chance that life sometimes forgot to provide. Grandpa Walter served as our chairman, his business acumen invaluable in growing our endowment. But more than that, he'd become the father figure I'd never really had. We went fishing every Sunday morning, just the two of us, making up for years of lost time. "I'm sorry I didn't catch it sooner," he said one morning as we watched the sunrise over the lake. "I should have been more involved, should have asked more questions." "You saved me, Grandpa," I told him. Maybe not from the initial theft, but from a lifetime of lies. From thinking I wasn't good enough. From accepting less than I deserved. "You saved yourself," he corrected. "By staying honest when everyone around you was lying. By working hard when you could have given up. By choosing integrity even when it would have been easier to be bitter." The foundation grew faster than we'd imagined. By the end of the first year, we'd helped 50 students recover stolen funds or receive replacement scholarships. Each story was unique but followed similar patterns. The sudden discovery of betrayal, the scramble to understand how deep it went, the choice between justice and family harmony. We always advocated for justice. Family harmony built on lies isn't harmony at all. It's just delayed disaster. My parents sent letters from prison. I read them but didn't respond. They still maintained they'd done nothing wrong, that they'd been trying to build my character, that I'd betrayed them by choosing money over family. They never understood that they were the ones who made that choice first. 1 year after the trial, I graduated with my master's degree, paid for with the recovered funds. Walking across that stage, I thought about the different person I'd have been if I'd had access to that money from the beginning. Would I have worked as hard? Would I have appreciated it as much? Maybe not. But that wasn't the point. The point was that the choice should have been mine to make. Life isn't about the struggles we overcome. It's about the choices we make when facing them. My parents chose greed. Sarah chose fear. Connor chose redemption. Grandpa chose justice. And me? I chose forgiveness. Not for those who'd wronged me. They had to earn that, but for myself. For the years of doubt, the missed opportunities, the relationships that could have been different. I chose to build something positive from the ruins of betrayal. To help others who'd experienced similar pain. To prove that family isn't about blood. It's about the people who stand by you when the truth comes out. The Foundation's motto, inscribed on a plaque in our office, says it all. Your past was stolen, but your future is yours. Looking back now, I realize the $876,000 was never really about the money. It was about trust, about the fundamental belief that parents protect their children, that family means safety. My parents broke that trust. But in doing so, they taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. That integrity isn't inherited. It's chosen. Every day, in small decisions and large ones, we choose who we want to be. I chose to be someone who helps others find their second chances. Someone who believes in justice, but also in redemption. Someone who knows that the worst betrayals can sometimes lead to the greatest transformations. The money was recovered. The criminals were punished. The foundation thrives. But the real victory? It's that I can tell this story without hatred. With sadness for what was lost? Yes. With anger at what was stolen? Certainly, but not with hatred. Because hatred would mean they still had power over me. And they don't. Not anymore. My education, the real one, didn't come from the universities I couldn't afford or the opportunities I missed. It came from learning that character isn't built through suffering. It's revealed through choices. And I choose to use my story to help others reclaim theirs. That's worth more than $876,000. That's worth everything. What would you do if you discovered your own family had stolen your future? Would you seek justice even if it meant losing them forever? Or would you stay silent to preserve a peace built on lies? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming betrayal and finding redemption. Share this with anyone who needs to know that they're not alone in facing family financial abuse. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, your past may have been stolen, but your future is always yours to claim.